just started a video, or I'm uploading a video about Mason Greenwood, and right after I finished it, Richard Arnold, who's the CEO, I guess, put out a statement. So if you see the other video, I don't know if I'll put it. It's probably on private right now, but I just want to get this out here. There's more. There's so much more here, and I told you people that you have to wait. Mark Goldbridge, Sam from United People's TV, Stremford Paddock. You allow emotion because this was a woman to crowd. I can't say the word. Your judgment that you didn't allow the facts to come out. There was a reason why that this was no longer pursued. Uh, this is what we have to do in this world right now. We have to believe everything a woman says and destroy somebody's career based on this. It's a huge, long thing. I'm going to try to go through it as much as I can, but there's so much more here now. And because the outpouring for certain groups is basically got him gone. Read the statement, the first one, the first one that came out of the club. Then read Richard Arnold's, or what I don't know what his name is, but it's on the website. And I don't know what at this point they tried as much as they could do to do it, but the world that we live in right now, once an allegation like this happens, it's very difficult to get past it. Um, Clearly, he wanted to stay. She wanted to stay, but we thought as society that we had to do better for her when she didn't want it. Let me see if I can find it here again. All right, it's a long statement, but it incorporates what I did in the other video as well. I'm going to read parts of it. Given the public nature of the allegation of Mason's profile, I acknowledge that this was not an ordinary situation, but I felt it important that we follow due process. Thank God that they tried to do that. The public didn't think that way. They saw the pictures, they saw the audio. We have to basically get them out. And there are a lot of people in the fan base wanting us to do more. When the video or the audio footage and imagery was posted online in January of 2022, he's talking about himself. This is the CEO of Manchester United. And how everybody thought at that time. Nobody was against the girl, okay? We were all shocked at what we heard. But as somebody that's been through this, not me personally, but dealing with this as a men's right advocate, I've seen things like this before. And then once you find out that there's more to it, there always is. It doesn't. This stuff doesn't come out of a vacuum. There's stuff here, and He talks about some of this in there, but something he can't because the Crown still says that maybe in the future they might actually I can't say anything because of my emotions and my stroke issue. My feelings were of shock and a concern of the alleged victim. He says this everywhere. The alleged victim. They're saying in the statement today. That means that they do not believe that she is the victim. Anyway, her welfare wishes and perspective has been central to the club's approach ever since. We were immediately concluded that Mason should be suspended pending investigation. I'm just going to go to the point where we get to the point. While we were not able to access certain evidence for reasons we expect, the evidence we did collated led us to conclude that Mason did not commit the acts he was charged with. Remember, he was charged with sexual assault, like rape or something like that. But he says he was he was charged with I am restricted as to what I can say for legal reasons, including the alleged victim's ongoing right to anonymity. So again, we allow people to say things about you. Again, I don't know. Nobody knows for sure. There was so much more than just this. You cannot look at one picture or a 30-second, or excuse me, three second video or a 3 minute audio and think that that's all it is. Remember, Masons went to Iceland with England, and he got caught with another woman or women in his room. She was his girlfriend at that point. It doesn't take much to understand what could have happened after that. This is April of 22. She wanted them to drop the investigation. What happens at that point, at least in the United States, you don't necessarily have to have the witness. If you think you have enough, and if it's a high profile person, they're going to go after them. And this is what they did there, until it happened a year later. They said, we don't have enough. And then they found out more information. And that's the reason why he was not prosecuted, why it was dropped, why the club said, there's no basis here for him not to play for us. It says here, we were provided with alternative explanation for the audio recording, which was a short excerpt of a much longer recording, and for the images posted online. The alleged victim's family participated in the process, and we were given the opportunity to review and correct our factual findings. This could have all been like a role playing thing. We don't know. We may never not know, because it'll make her look so bad, and then everybody will go after her, and people who only believe in football will say, my God, we lost this great talent because she just, oh my God. It said last week the media reported that we decided to reintegrate Mason, and elements of the plan to do so had already leaked out to them. This is when I said on my previous video, that's the media being the enemy for the people. Well, how did they get this information? It says right here, this is the CEO, the guy that, it says, I am satisfied that Mason did not commit the acts that he was charged with. But yet, Mason needs to understand he made mistakes. He has to take responsibility for. For having her as his girlfriend? Again, I don't know. Nobody fucking knows. And when people say he should be gone because all of a sudden 2 or 3 weeks ago, the media said that we're going to get him back in the team, and now all the pundits and all the people on YouTube said, oh my God, the club is the worst person of all time. The same fucking sources that talks about transfers at the club are always wrong, and we're supposed to believe them. That and then we get on there, and these people who used to be cops, and I'm talking about Mark Goldbridge, used to be cops, and basically wants to get rid of him, even though he couldn't say shit for the last 18 months. This is how he's always felt, just like the CEO of Manchester United thought first, that everybody thought it first. My God, why would anybody do that to anybody? She clearly is a victim here, would never do anything like that. We never wanted to play for Manchester United again. And now he said after 18 months, he's looked at the stuff. He's got more evidence than anybody that knows, that talks online about this, and says he does not believe that he committed any of this. He believes in him. So why would he not want to keep his employee, the guy that's been there since he's 7 years old? And he says, I'm also mindful of the challenges that Mason would be building his career at Manchester United. Okay. I'm going to stop there with that because it goes into that. And that was the problem I thought that we could actually have, that his redemption arc could actually be here at Manchester United. Maybe, as everybody should have said 18 years or 8 months ago or whatever it was, that we just loan him out and then we'll deal with it another year from now. What does that do? Do we want ever to play? If he wants to play for Manchester, that's the club he grew up with. He got there since he was 7 years old. How's that going to do anything? She has forgiven him for whatever he did. Apparently, he's also forgiven her because she has a partner as well. This is the issue I have. In a society now, we never make women responsible for any of this stuff. And clearly, there was more stuff here. And I said we should have waited and waited and waited. I didn't say anything about this for 18 months because I know there was more to it. And it was not shocking to me when the Crown came out in February and said there is more evidence that is not known, and that is why we're not doing it. Yes, the witness, Harriet, is no longer going to press charges, said that in April of 2022 because she knew what she did was probably wrong. They probably had all this stuff on tape. Came right after he did what he did in Iceland. It seems almost very probable that she did this after he did this when he went to Iceland because she was defamed in her mind because she was the public girlfriend of his, and he was doing this stuff while he was away, and she wanted to get back at him, and she had these recordings, and she didn't want them to be released. They were hacked, and then she has to say, what do you do at that point? It happens all the time. I'm telling you guys, this is what happens when women are confronted with their choices like this. If they are with somebody and the father walks in and goes, no, he just came in to try to rape me, and we find out they were together before that. Sometimes those people go to prison, get killed, get lynched, get whatever. Sometimes we find out that she eventually gives the truth. And then you have these asshole people saying that we've got to believe everything a woman says, that if you ask them when they're going to the cops and talking about it and they're being interrogated, oh my God, I can't talk about it. If you ask that question, you're against women. You do not believe all women. You believe the evidence. You can respect and be very nice or whatever to them when they're talking to you, but you follow the evidence. It's clear there's a lot more here. And because we looked at this as a mob, and I have two daughters, okay? And I've heard that shit too as well. What if it's your fucking daughter? I'm thinking, what about it's my fucking son? I have two sons as well. I'll know if my son comes to me and says, this happened to me, and there's these videos out here, and he said, Dad, I had nothing to do with this, whatever it was, explains it to me. I'm going to believe him as well as I would trust my daughter. And I just thought there's a good chance here for him to have his redemption, that she could have been in the stadium with him with his kid. They could have, and I said for many times I thought they should have been out there talking to the media, but clearly they don't trust the media. Why would you? I'm thinking to myself, I'm stupid that I even thought of that. This is not Kobe in front of a group of people after he was accused of raping somebody and gives his wife a $4 million ring or whatever. There is no way that in our society, in England especially, that they would allow that to happen, because everybody across that stage or that in the press conference would believe the narrative that he was this monster that should be in prison for the rest of his life. And again, I don't know him. You don't know him. Nobody knows him. But there's more here. And it's shameful that so many people came out after the fact when the leaves were churning a certain way and just went along with it. And then they have the audacity to say, why aren't these other people in the media saying the same thing? Mark Goldbridge, biggest YouTube channel in Manchester United, fan channel. Of course, it's not that anymore. It's an entertainment channel. He still says this today. Why aren't people saying more about it? What do you want them to say, Mark? The Crown says they don't have anything. The club said, the CEO said he believes them from what he's seen, but he can't talk about all of it because he's legally, he can't talk about it. There's probably so much shit here that really says a lot of bad things about her, but we won't do it in this society. We won't say that she was the one that did the entire thing. And I don't know exactly what happened, but we'll kill him. We'll keep his career, even though he's been part of the family of Manchester United for 13 years. It's like he's an adopted son for Manchester United. And people don't understand how that works. People in the United States don't understand it. When you go off and become an academy player in England, in a huge club like that, they're basically your second family. And We do it here like in college, but he was 7. I'm proud that the club did as much as they could here. They didn't put him to the wolves. They allowed it. They had the investigation, and they see that there's more here. But the fact is the public, the whatever it is, the 1% that actually comes on Twitter or the women's groups and all that stuff just wanted him out. Well, you got what you fucking deserved. And I hope he goes and gets 5 Ballon d'Ors and wins 18 or 5 Champions Leagues. Because I hope to God she's with him for the rest of their life. And they look back at this, say we had an issue and we got past it, and we had 4 or 5 other kids, and everything's great. I hope to God that happens. It's more important than football anyway. All right. Let me know what you think. I'm going to post this, and you guys can, or if anybody has any questions before I get off, I'll definitely talk about it. I mean, like I said, I have some sort of experience with this. It's not, the whole thing was never out of left field, because I've seen fake stuff in my life, and but we're so whatever. We'll see what happens. I'm sure Mark will come out and say something. He won't say anything. He'll probably blame the club. Why'd you wait this long? Oh, you leave Mason now? I can't believe it. We have to get rid of the CEO because he believes making Mason Greenwood. Now again, he's saying that he believes that he is not guilty of the charges that were against him. And, holding her like she was a prisoner, that type of thing, sexual assault. I don't think there's anything proof of that. And I don't know if he was just charged with actual assault. I agree. But this is what we do now, and it's going to be that way. Um, we bow down to the pressure of the mob, and I think that the club was really trying to allow us to understand what's going on, and I think they knew that there was going to be some sort of outrage. It's possible he could have came out with that a couple weeks ago, just that, and say we're still deciding whether we want to keep him or not. And there are going to be people like Mark and other people going to say, well, he should have been loaned out. And I'm like, why? Why tear off the fucking Band-Aid? If we believe he's not guilty of this, I mean, we have a player on the team that's accused of the same fucking thing, and nobody gives a shit about him. And it's like, I've watched this team. I've been a fan for over 40 years. There are probably 10 instances that I can remember, and this is before social media, that of this same type of thing, and these players played. And I know it's different now because of social media and everything. And the fact that those pictures are out there, the video is out there, the audio is out there, and no one will ever believe him. No one will ever believe if she comes out and said it was all part of the thing, that I was just using this as leverage over him. They're going to say, "Oh no, she's being manipulated because she's a woman now." And this is the whole other thing too. In all my videos, it's like, are we going to treat women like they're not children? Is she naive, or is she an empowered female? She wants to stay with him. She is with him. She said nothing. She said after April 2022, I have nothing to do with this. This is before she got pregnant with him. I don't want to be with him anymore, or I don't want to charge him anymore. And there's a reason why that happens. She could have got paid off, and that's the other thing, right? Everybody believes that. They gave her whatever, 500,000 or something like that, not to say it. And it's very possible that happened. But she still stayed with him. And then when they got back together, they had sex apparently, and they have a kid together, and she loves him, she loves her. This thing just it happens so much that a lie or a claim just gets blown up, and you can never put the genie back in the bottle, and it happens. And we just look at it that we know more than everybody, even though we're not in the fucking room. we're not part of it. And we just think, oh my God, he's the worst person ever. And there is some, and I don't like this so much because I rail against it, but there's the dynamic of race. It clearly is. And as a white dude, and I never looked at Mason I never look at anybody that way. When I know somebody, I don't put that lens on it. I hear what you're saying, James. I do. That decision could have been done a while back. But I think that what the club looked at, obviously, he's more than just a player for Manchester United. He's also an asset. And but the problem is, if you if you loan him out, and none of this information comes out, uh, uh, maybe he does have this. He releases that statement 6 months ago or whatever, and he goes, and then he comes back. Maybe it'll be less, but at some point you have to address it. And if you ever wanted to play for Manchester United again, you have to do it. Now, if you, if I understand what you say, what it's going to be at the different parks. I mean, you all remember what happened to Beckham after the World Cup. I mean, they hanged him in effigy, right, because of what he did in the World Cup. This is a little bit different. Obviously, they're going to say things. I don't know. It was so bad. I mean, seriously, I don't know how old you are, but it was so bad back then. Imagine it was social media then. I mean, he was pillared everywhere for what he did in the World Cup. It's a hard thing, and he said that it's a very, very hard thing to do, to try to navigate this. And the question is, because he was an elite player, of course they do more for it, and that's the hypocrisy of all of it. And people obviously will talk about it today, because if he was an average player, nobody would care. He would have been gone already. The fact that he was an elite player, they had the time to talk about it, look at the evidence, and say there's more here. And the fact that he was there for so long, people they get attached to these players. They're not just employees. All right, you don't you just can't. They were kids. Of course, you get attached to them, and you as somebody that's almost like a paternal figure, you don't want to believe what's being accused of him. But as he's an adult, you say, "Oh my God, this looks horrible." But then you look at with good faith and say, "There's more here," and clearly there is. And it's unfortunate. I think he could have she came out, and it is probably, and I said it when it first came out. If we was never going to stay with the team, that probably was the right thing to do. The easiest thing to do was to loan him out. Now, apparently, we're going to do it now. But at least he has at least somebody in the club that somewhat believes his versions of the events. And regardless, the people that still believe they can't be changed. They're not. They're going to blame the club for everything in this entire thing. The same fucking people that blame the club for everything. They have every right to talk about other issues in the club. And I talk about that in my channel. I still believe overall the club has been 100% right about this entire thing. Whatever they do from here, what at this point, maybe you ask him exactly where he wants to go. I would love him in the MLS. I'm sure somebody will pay for him. Oh, probably not, because the women's groups here would probably say shit here too. Where's he going to go? The Middle East? Is he going to go play in uh, Saudi Arabia or some shit? I don't know. I guess I'll have to find it out. But I'm just, I just knew this was going to happen. I knew when all of a sudden I heard the rumors that he might come back. Then I said, Jesus, they know more. The club knows. The crown knows. But we're not gonna say certain things. We're not gonna do anything. Well, the issue don't they have issues in Italy with the racial stuff? I mean, they that's don't they like throw bananas on the field there sometimes? I, I agree with you. I think he'd be a really good player to play in Italy. Um, I just ah, Turkey, I think, would be a good place. Well, yeah, that's a whole nother video because I like Mourinho. Um, I don't know, man. This is not about winning or losing. It's not like who's right, who's wrong. Are you just Mason FC then? I think the club did the right thing here. Are you talk? You got to help me with that. if you no longer support Manchester United when they did everything they could to look into it and basically exonerated him today, but can't are you're upset because they're not going to stick with him for the entire time? Okay, I understand, but I've been a supporter over 40 years, man. I can't just all of a sudden not support them anymore. If you're a young kid or a young man, I understand it. Um, but that's just the players apparently wanted him back. And again, what we heard about months ago is that the players didn't want him back. So I think they probably were certain parts of that club were privy to some sort of that information, stuff that they could look at. Obviously, like Richard said, there are certain things he can't talk about legally. I think it because you look at the sue, they get sued for something if it gets pulled out in the public sphere, and the only reason that would be is if it really exonerates him, and it defames her, and then they feel they might get sued because of it to defame her, and of course through a huge um, club of financial stuff there, and then she would probably get a settlement from that. Um, I just there's I tried to make it in the video I made a couple weeks ago. I said, they don't. These were young kids during COVID, and we had people here in the United States. I wasn't in England at this time. I was last time I was in England was almost 20 years ago. Um, it's we had a lot of people here. They were so depressed and doing stupid shit. We were locked down, and who knows what was going on? They might have been doing a whole role playing thing. And I said, then the shit comes out. You know, who do you believe when it comes? Yeah, my I didn't release it. It was my phone was hacked. You know, she released this stuff, and everybody said she actually released it, and then she came out later and said, no, it was hacked. Who do you believe there? And then she goes in, has to go in because now it's public, right? So she has to go have a statement to the cops. She thinks about it. I agree. I agree. But that's how the mob works, man, and that's how social media works, and that's how we've looked at. And I've said it before. We look at in the West. We look at women as children that we have to continually support because we think that they can't make their own decisions. If she said no way, I'm not going to be anywhere near him, and she starts going out and talking about it all the time, I don't know if I still believe her. When I said in my video, and I still believe, I think she's got more fortitude than anybody else because she stayed with him. She wanted him to come back in Manchester. She wanted him to have that redemption because probably part of that was the guilt that she felt because she had that shit on her phone, and she probably had it there to have over him, and it probably all, and eventually maybe it'll come out. Somebody write it down. Somebody put a book about it. That when he did what he did in Iceland, I don't know if he was with Mount or Foden. I don't know who it was. And they were with there's girls in their hotel, and he got sent back. It's a different thing, James, because probably it's in his other country across the sea. I think the issue with him, James, is that he isn't playing very well, and the fact um, that somebody will bring it out now and say you're not doing anything. Okay, it was Foden. Um, so I think that she looked at that and said, you know what, you do that shit to me because she was defamed for it because she was his girlfriend. So you think that women? I don't care if they're 18, 19, 20. They remember and they know how to use shit. I'm not saying again she did that. I don't want to be on this video and then somebody comes back and says I'm saying she did it. I said there's so much here, and the fact that because the club leaked or somebody in the club said certain things 2 weeks ago that all these other fucking pundits came out there saying, no, see, clearly the club's a piece of shit. And I can't believe this. We're going to bring him back because I believe everything I see. Instead of look, you're not in the court. You're not in the crown. People like Mark Holbridge, great dude, whatever. Especially with the charity stuff and the fact he came from nothing. He's just a cop, and all of a sudden he's basically has his own media empire now. Great, that's capitalism. Love it. But this idea that he's got some sort of insider knowledge when it comes to this. He says, I have all this information when it comes to transfers in the club. He has people on point there. And he's right 1 out of 100 times. But we're supposed to believe what he has to say here. And then he waits and waits and waits and waits. And eventually says, I can't believe and he blames the club here. Oh, okay. I get it. Yeah. Yeah. You're right. If Richard and those guys looked at it and said, Jesus, it's so bad right here, and clearly he did it, he would already been released. And that's what it would have been this. He's going to be gone. Because there's no way. Why would Manchester United want to have that PR against them? Clearly, the proof they believe that he's probably 100% right or innocent, and they wanted him to stay to come back because he. Why would they do anything else? It's certainly more. It's more than just. It's not gray or it's not black and white. It's not. And the problem is when these type of situations, the society in the West especially always look at men to be responsible for whatever happens. No, what was he doing? Oh, it was his fault. Oh, are they? Are they being that now? I have not looked on YouTube. I would like to know. Are they going to say that? Oh my God, that maybe we were wrong? I, I don't. Again, I don't. This is not a black and white. It's not right or wrong when it comes to this situation because it's very possible he could have done all this, right? And then Richard and those guys could have looked at it and said he clearly did. And guess what? A real team would have done. They would have released him. They didn't do this. I think they knew early on that there was something here. That's why he was suspended with pay. Um, they still did think what they did for her. I don't want to be upset with her because she was young as well. And I can, as an older dude, I will look at young women to do certain things. But she also knew that she had the power here. People forget, and I said that in my video, is that she was a very unique situation because most people in this situation don't have the power uh, dynamic. He had all the financial stuff, all that power with that, but she had the ability that no matter what happened, she could have still got money out of this. And maybe they did. And I mean, you could look at every scenario. Maybe in April of 2022, he gave her 500,000 or something to tell her to shut up, right? I don't think there's any proof of that. I mean, you would think you would get bank records to see this. And now that they have a baby together, I don't know how it works, but clearly, if they ever get away, she's going to have support for the rest of the baby's life. If they get married, she's going to get half. And the thing is, what she is, at what point is she not? And she's not an adult. She said that she wanted to stay with him, and they had their kid. And why would a woman allow a man that's so violent to be with her and her kid? Oh no, no, women we can't trust them. We have to treat them as children because we know that there's sometimes this happens in real life that a man does stuff like this. But Mason's like every other man out there. We don't look at him as an individual case. We look at him as a man. And unfortunately, in some eyes, the black man and the white woman, we have that dynamic as well because statistically, they are more violent. I'm not saying it's true or not. I'm just saying that there are people who believe this stuff. So I don't look at what Mark has to say as a racial thing at all. He's like most people his age, my age, anybody else. We see the video, we hear the audio, we want to condemn him right there. We don't think that the other things could have happened. We look at that one moment in time and say that reflects everything in your life. And I say to those people is that true? Go look in your life. Think of the ideas that you had when you're with somebody or a bad relationship that you had and said, what I could have done in your mind, what you thought. Well, yeah. Well, yeah. Especially if you play at the biggest club in the world, right? And you have people that are just have this narrative about men that this is what we're programmed to do. And I had it too. I'm sure there's no guys that are my age. Oh, he's a rat. Who's a rat? Oh, okay. Well, he hasn't been released. All right, he's going to be able to. They're going to find out a way for him to go do things. All right, the club has not released him. They're going to try to get something out of him, and hopefully, and I think Richard Arnold kind of said that there might be still. He doesn't leave. Okay, okay, AJ, that's fine. That's your opinion, and it's you're welcome to it. Um, there still could be a redemption arc for him, his family, for Manchester United, and we can do things that it'll help. All I say on this channel, and what I've said before, is as a man, when I see that, clearly I think about defending the girl. I do, but then I always have to step back a little bit, take my rational, logical brain, and said, let's look at everything before we crucify the dude. All right, this is how we used to do it for hundreds of years. We would just, if somebody made an allegation, we would go and take him, string him up, and kill him. Didn't really care what color you were. This was how it was done in Europe. It's how it's done in the United States for a while. And in the Old West, if it happened, that's what they would do. What made us better is that our rules and due process, what made us the greatest culture, I guess, in the world, was this: you're innocent until finding guilty. I'm not saying he's not guilty of anything. We don't know. I don't know. I couldn't really understand what that said. Again, you could, everybody can have their opinion. There's no right and wrong here because we don't know, right? And that's the point I was trying to make all along about this. You can't wait after 18 months of this, after she's already said in April of 2022 she wanted to drop charges. There was evidence that's out there that has not been released to all of us in the public domain. They did their investigation. The Crown did their investigation. They're saying basically the same thing. If you believe this is all a cover up for one player, it'd be shocking to think that way. But okay, um, no, it's not his fault at all. Now, just because I put his name in a couple of my videos doesn't mean I hate him. Like I said before, for what he did, I mean, I started watching that dude when he had like 30,000 subscribers. It's been a long time, and most of what he does is fine. All right, but it has nothing to do with Mark, other than the fact now he has a lot of influence. So when he says what he has to say, there's a lot of people that follow this, right? And I only have 400 subscribers. All right, I'm not doing anything. I'm just saying that some people have to call him out on these certain things. I've done it about on players. I did about Luke Shaw years ago. I also on David De Gea. There are players that he loves so much that he doesn't see their issues that they have as a player. Doesn't mean I don't have any personality against Mark or any of the other uh, players that play for Manchester United. I think they all have tried. It's, it's like the game on Saturday. I think they all tried. I think too many players out of. Thank you, AJ or YJ. Thank you. Um, it's just, it's just, I don't have any problems with Aaron, the coach. I don't like how they formed up the team. I'll keep talking. The problem is I talk about certain things that people don't like to talk about on here, and it's because I have so less. I don't have a whole lot. I haven't been banned yet. Some of the stuff I talk on this channel would get me banned if I had more than 2 or 3 thousand subscribers. I'd get banned, and I don't talk about that much anymore. So people pretty much know where I feel about certain things. I I don't look at the color of the skin, but I don't look at but I also talk about certain things that's happened in the West. I think we all could still do it together. But as somebody that's been around a little bit, I don't like what I've seen. And part of it is related to what we're seeing with this Mason Greenwood thing. We have too many groups they have so much power in our government, and it's also the United States and England. We're very similar, even though you're a lot smaller geographically than we are. Uh, we have the people that kind of run your country is very similar. They have same ideas, the woke stuff and all the other stuff. It's kind of like there. And as men, way too many men wanted to kill him anyway. I mean, it's part of our DNA. We kind of like that way. Um, and we have way too many young guys that are almost they're so emotional. They're almost like women. And I don't know what that is. It could be the environment or the fact there's no whole lot of fathers in the homes anymore. And this is what I talk about in my channel as well. Just a second. Let me get tell my daughter or my son to get my kid out, my dog out, because I can hear him talking. I'll be back in a second. Coco. Or Coco. Yeah, I have an old golden retriever. She's on her last couple of years, I guess. Um, definitely a hard thing. So it's just, I don't know. I'll see what Mark has to say. I'm sure he'll talk about it. He'll probably say that all along what he believed was correct. He should have been loaned out. Again, I don't believe that per se. You can do it now because apparently everybody in the at the table wants that to happen because they don't want to deal with the stuff that's going to happen at the stadiums. And maybe I was naive thinking that maybe at some point if we do it that we can move on and we could have his redemption. But the only way that happens, I guess, if you really look at it honestly, is that she would have to come out, and I said that in my video. Yeah, you're probably right, Avian, uh, Brett Prescott. If she came out with the entire thing, and then you would still get a lot of people that would not believe her. They'll say that she's staying with him because of the money and all that stuff. So it's the when you get to this position, there's no way to get it back, and um, I just wanted I don't know. Like I said, I don't know him. It's not like I know Mason Greenwood. I don't, and nobody knows, right? As we look at these footballers and we think that they're just because they play a certain way on the field that they're good people. We don't know anything. I'm gonna tell you one of the greatest. I mean, one of my son's name. I have two sons. One of them's Ryan. There's a reason why his name is Ryan. And now I found out that the man that I named my son after was doing some stupid ass shit. Uh, as obviously I'm talking about Ryan Giggs. I loved him as a player. I think people talk about him and Ronaldo, and they're talking about Ronaldo was this and that. I'm like, I have never seen anything like Ryan Giggs when he was 17 years old and playing in the first division or in the Premiership. It's just I've never seen anything like him. It's just unbelievable. And the fact that he was so good that later on he changed his game and he was still one of the best players still in the Premiership when he was almost 40. It's just and and yet he did all he did. He was a degenerate when it comes to certain things, but he was a great player on the field, right? So we don't know, but when you see things, yeah, yeah, and that's the point. He waited and waited and waited, and that's why my video I called him out on it because he thought that way when they first heard everything, as everybody else did, right? But he allowed that emotion and the fact that he was, yeah, well, yeah, yeah, but for what? Because we all know what would happen if we came back a year later. The same shit would be going on right now. You'd have all these groups out. So at some point, you have to actually face it, right? And since the club, because we have not sold it, right? And everybody hates the Glazers. So when the club comes out with a statement, nobody's going to look at they're going to not you. They're not going to trust that statement. So we're in a bad position when it comes to that. So we can't, in our mind, we can't really trust what the club has to say either. And that's been fomented by people like Mark and other people that just blames the club for everything. And again, on parts of it, not the club. the owners, right? There's nothing wrong with the club per se. It's the owners, and we hate them because some people don't like them because they're American like myself, um, and businessmen. And I'm like, okay, when when Manchester United became a public company, you're going to get businessmen to get them because they see profit there. And now we see what's happened in Saudi Arabia and stuff. The game's changed so much that personally, I wish we could stop all that and start over, but that's not going to happen. This is where we are right now. People that don't know about college football in the United States, we're paying our players. The game's totally changed here as well. What I loved about watching soccer in the morning or football in the morning, and then college football in the afternoon, is gone now because it's totally different now. But I'm still going to do it. I'm still going to do it because I love it. Um, but it's just part of what's happened, and we don't trust anybody. And when I had my video and I said I don't trust the media, what I'm talking about is when we hear reports on transfers from the club from an insider source in the club, and then it doesn't come out, and then we hear the same thing 2 or 3 months ago or 2 or 3 weeks ago about Mason Greenwood, that they were thinking about bringing him back. Now that could have been, this is what you do for PR. You put it out there and see how the public responds to it. Maybe that's what happened. And then for about a couple days, it was okay. And then we saw his actual face on the first team. It was blacked out, but it was there. And maybe it was all part of it. And then when the only problem I had with the club is when they said we're going to wait for the Lionesses to come back and we're going to talk to the women's team. That's when I got like, why? Are you going to talk to the cook? Not that females, and I'm not going to say that. I'm not saying that. But why? They're not going to play with him. They're not going to be in the same. They might have to do some media thing together. So there's some of that. But why would you ask the Lioness? Not, I think I understand what you said there. Because of my issues, being able to read and all that at the same time, it kind of gets drumbled around a little bit. But no, there's, you know, again, it's one of those weird things. He's right now, what Mark is doing, he's blaming people are not out there being more vocal about, I guess, to get rid of him. And he's like, truth be damned, because he knows everything. And I'm like, what? Does he have the report that Richard Arnold has? Does he? He's like, he said it. He said it a couple weeks or a week ago. He said there's more here. It's the public domain. Then shit went crazy, right? And now they changed everything because what we heard now is they had everything set up. They already had a video with him talking, Greenwood talking, saying he's coming back, and the CEO was going to talk about it. So they had to do probably a different one, and then all this happened. This is insider sources saying that, but now he's still today. He's not putting Mason under the bus. He's saying, for everything we've seen, we have the entire audio. They have more information about the pictures or the small video that's out there, and there's more to this. What else could it be that what I said? There's more here. Like somebody said, one of my comments is that maybe they were all to the sort of BCL, whatever it is, BDSM or whatever it's called. I don't know it, but whatever. I don't know. I think they're kind of young for that, but I don't think that's the issue. I think that there's more of a look. This is how I'm going to have my control over you. She's a young girl. This is what they do. So, I mean, when I first saw the video, I didn't, or the pictures, I didn't see the video till later. But I looked at it. I thought it was fake. It just, again, on my experience of seeing this, especially since the cell phone and the last 20 years or so. The audio was always kind of the damning thing for me, but I still waited. What happened before? What happened after? And I gave that. I let my wife, who's my age, she's 56, and I let her listen to it, and she said, "We don't know shit happened before or after." We don't know what this is really related to. He says it doesn't sound good, but I've heard my wife before she married me, a couple of relationships before me, she was in a very abusive relationship. She knows what it's like. So, as almost all women do, unfortunately, because they end up going out the same fucking dudes, right? It's not like every man does this. Apparently, some women go after these type of player or type of men, and they choose wrong, and they're always those men are always out there till they're caught or whatever. So um, most guys are not like this. Nobody would ever, I would never hear in the audio. I would never say that to my wife. And as a man, I look at that and say, "What the fuck was he doing there?" But it's like there's levels of what you're going to do. Obviously, he needs issue and probably needs some help if he's got the type of anger. And again, I don't look at excuses. I look at the time it was. It was during COVID, and there were so many guys here that basically killed themselves during that time because they couldn't. And clearly, there was a lot of stress going on at that point. And I don't want to go down in the audio, but when he basically said earlier on in the audio, I asked you earlier to help me with this, and you said no. Doesn't mean what he should have, what he did after that, he should have done. But I'm just saying. I mean, obviously, he was on a lot of stress, maybe. I don't want to go down there. That's not really the issue now. The issue is the club basically has defended him, and they're going to at this point because the mob has said we'll never want him back at Manchester United. We're going to give him a way to get out of the clean a team so he could go somewhere and play football. Unfortunately for him, because there'll never be nothing, probably nothing more after this. He'll never play for England again, no matter what he does on the world stage, unless they come out and they have this press conference, or they do a book, or they do something like this, or he does whatever. Because people have made up their mind. It's just unfortunate. That's all I'm saying. I know there are a lot of times that this happens, and people, it's not yes or no, right? It's not right or wrong. And there'll be situations like this that will say, "Oh, look like this faked," and then we'll find out the next day that ends up he comes back and kills her. Okay, there are scenarios where that happens as well, but it does kind of fall back to where are we going to give her responsibility to be with him, to raise their kids together, or as a state government mob to come in and say you don't know enough about yourself, you don't have enough ability to do this. um, we're going to come and step in. They haven't done that yet. They haven't pulled her out, and I don't think they can because she's an adult. um, but maybe maybe it'll change some people's eyes or bring it down a little bit. It's just, and I know these guys waited and waited, and there was reason why, because they didn't want to be on the wrong side. But I mean, the straw that broke the camel back was when we heard that he might be coming back, and like, oh no, 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 I can't have that. I can't have that. And then all that emotion came out. Oh, it was my daughter. It was, oh my God, I would never allow this to happen. He's a monster. But I won't really say he's a monster. But I'll say all this stuff and say he should be gone. We don't worry about him at all in this situation at all. And it's where I come from, and my biases, and I have it, is for 30 years of my life, I believed the same mantra: believe whatever women says, that we have to protect them, and we still should do that. Provide for them, protect them. But then you hear all the different cases and all these men that have been fossilized, falsely accused, people actually going to the gallows and getting killed, or the mob mentality. We find out these people didn't do this. Athletes being claimed that they did this stuff, and then you realize the dynamic that women have. Um, I mean, ask the whole Tiger Woods. He would have there's a whole comedy bit about it. He'd have 50 Norwegian women outside his hotel every day. He could have any of them, and if of course he was like going out with like porn stars and shit, and I don't understand that. Um, it's just, there is a dynamic between men and women, high valued men. I'm not Andrew Tate, okay? I'm not that dude. But there is a dynamic when it comes to this. It's not really for the normal people, right? It's like when, because I don't want to, I'm going to say it. Clearly, she was at Carrington when he was coming up, right? Or maybe they met her, that she met him at a club somewhere. But she probably wanted to have that lifestyle. That doesn't mean that she's should be subjected to being, finance or violence coming after her. But this is what something she wanted. He wanted a nice looking girl. Now they have a baby together. They've clearly matured from all this. They've had to have. Um, he doesn't want her to be defamed because that's more shit he's got to deal with. He's like, I'm going to take responsibility. I'd have to see an actual statement from him. I want to exactly see what he has to say. He's not going to say anything that's going to indoctrinate or it's going to incriminate him. Um, but there's more here. And when this happened, I said we just have to just wait just a bit, and I think we did. And then the club came out, and either they purposely leaked this information. Yeah, you're right, Bounty. I mean, from a rational perspective, that's probably the right thing to do. It is, and I'd be okay with it, and I am okay with it. I want what's best for him and his kid. I don't care about the rest of us when it comes to his individual case. Is that he's a young man. He has a girlfriend. I'm sure at some point they'll get married. They have a kid together. They've gone through a lot of shit that none of us gets to go through at this level. I'm talking about being in the public sphere. Obviously, women go through this and men do this early in life. I mean, it happens. But it could, I mean, as somebody trying to make it best for them, that might be the best thing for them. My issue has always been the reaction to it. And the fact that we can't, as a society, we just can't allow shit to resolve themselves. And a lot of this is social media, because we want to know right away if they're in the United States, if there's a shooting, they pretty much will say it's a white guy that's going out killing people. Well, even though it's only for another probably 2 days, we're still the majority in this country. It's You would think that most times whoever goes out and shooting somebody will be a white person, just based on how many we have more white people in the country than we have anything else. But it's not necessarily true. What happens in the United here is that it's got to be a white guy, and then it's somebody else, and then we lose that. There's nothing after that. It's like we're not going to talk about it anymore. It's like the media. So when I talk about the media is against us, this is what I'm talking about. It didn't used to be that way. It was always biased to the left, just a little bit, just a little bit to the left. And I'm from the left. I'm classical liberal. In Britain, it's kind of considered conservative, I guess, but I'm a little bit to the left in most areas. But there's nothing like that in the United States anymore. There is nothing that's a moderate anymore, and the social media and media itself is so leftist right now. And there's so many things that I talk about in this channel that I can't really talk about anymore. Well, who pushes all this to divide us? And the media is one of those institutions that does it. I'm not saying that everybody in media is like that. The guy that works at a newspaper guy in town probably isn't like that. But the big um, companies are. They clearly are. They have an agenda against, I could say, against people like me, because we know when this country was a little different that we kind of went past all that. And that's another thing I talk about on my channel. We had that reckoning in the 60s. Martin Luther King with his speech about your character and the color of your skin, and just the individuals, what made sense. And then all these people got upset about that. They went into college, they become professors. And when this country used to be 50-50, when you go to, oh, is he out there talking right now? Bounty? Is he just still talking about the victim? Well, again, this is what you do though. As a dude, you always look at the girl, because we're programmed to do it. But what I'm saying in this country is that we have this idea that oh, what was I going to talk about? The media is I'm not going to say it. I mean, you can find out. There are people you can talk to about this. Even the people that you think are conservative are not really. I'm not conservative, really. I just want. I don't want to go back to it when it's so much better because it wasn't that great in the '70s, in the '80s in this country. Um, but we had that reckoning in the United States, and what happened is the people that lost that. We've had two reckonings in this country since I've been alive. One is civil rights. Um, Also, it dealt with the welfare state that kind of destroyed us as well. We took the fathers out of the country, out of the family, and we used it with government to come in, and also politically correct because we're still the only country in the world that has free speech. You don't have it in Britain. Okay, you can say something, you can make a joke about something, and you're going to have your Stasi is going to be on your door for because you offend somebody. We're going down that road, but at least we have in our constitution that we have free speech. But in the '80s, we had a whole thing about political correcting stuff, and they tried to do this back then. The first time they had this whole issue about you can't say anything about anything because it's hate speech or anything, and they lost. But all these people stayed in college. They became the professors there. And when I went through college, it was about 50-50, the liberal versus the conservative professors. Everybody don't always, we're not always, we have two systems, but it's not, we're gray, right? You go back and forth, independent, whatever. Now it's 25-1. It is, it's so, and it's not liberal in the '80s. This is liberal now. It's 100% forward to the left. So they're indoctrinating the people that are there, and then they go on into businesses and they push this woke ideology, and now it's also in our high schools. It's going into our grade schools, and then when people come up and stand up against it, we're called domestic terrorism because we don't want our kids to be subject to this insane shit. I'm like, these are the same people that would have clearly said that Martin Luther King was a great person, but doesn't follow what he believes. And I just, we this was 60 years ago. We had this, well, 50, almost 60 now. We had this settled. We had it in the '80s with political correctness that there is no such thing as hate speech. All right. Our Supreme Court decided there's no such thing as hate speech. Now, you can't start violence. Who do you play for? He'll find a club somewhere. He's too much of a talent, right? And again, we go down that road. If he was an average player, this would never have been happen. Fortunately for him, at least the club came out today. In a lot of ways, exonerate him away from just a little bit, right? That he said that he doesn't believe that he is responsible for the charges against him, because this is what we do here: is that we have not moved on. All right, that's your point of view, and I don't know if we've actually moved on. If we're going to loan him out, he's still going to be on our books. So I don't know if you want him to release because you believe he's this monster or not. But either way, that's, if we oh yeah, why not? I'm sure that yeah, I think that he'd be fine in Turkey. So I want to go to Turkey, man. When I was growing up, when I was supposed to go, I was in the military, and there was this. They're going to have an assignment to there, and it was like, you don't want to go. I think was it Ankara. It's like, you don't want to go there, man. You don't want to go there. And that was nothing to. We didn't talk about Muslims and all that stuff back then, right? It had nothing to do with that. Okay, it's like a long way away from home. But my father-in-law went there. He loved Turkey, and why not? Why not? I mean, Fred went there. We're gonna admit Fred. We missed Fred on Saturday. Like Gary did. He plays well against Spurs, always has. So we really, really missed him yesterday. And the fact we gave him away for basically $1, it's like. But again, there's so much here, and I have no problem. I said it all along in my videos when I started talking about this about 2 weeks ago. I have no problem with the club do whatever they want to do. They're an independent source. They can do what they want to do. I'm thankful that they came out and said what they said today, because why shouldn't they? If he looked at it and said it's clear that he did this, they would have released him 15 months ago. They always thought there was probably something here, and they also had this relationship with this guy. And you would want your employee employer to do this. And again, people don't understand how it works. It's not like you're playing for IBM or Google or some shit. You think they'll actually sell them? Well, how much do you think we should get for them? 50? I mean, I don't think that anybody in Turkey can actually afford him for that. But I mean, if he wants to go to like Saudi Arabia, whatever he wants at this point, you know, you gotta have. I mean, she probably doesn't want to go to a place that she doesn't think that she's going to get be treated well because she's a woman. I'm not saying that we don't, because Saudi Arabia is. I'm not gonna say they're progressing, okay, but oh, thank you very much. Yeah, I have a lot of interests that I have, and if you go through my catalog, you might find it, and then you might describe. Um, there, yeah. When you're around for a little bit, and I don't know how old you are, um, and I've been around the world. The only place I haven't been a whole lot is the Far East, but I've seen a lot of things, and it's just weird that we've kind of like doing this to ourselves. Like I said, in the United States, we kind of like settled everything, and now we're going back. It's like it's so stupid, and we have the ability to come back again, and I just hope that we do. I don't want to be the most black pilled person on the internet. I don't. Sometimes I feel that way. I see what my son has to go through. I have a disabled son. You don't think there's no way back for him? You're right, Javon. You're right. You think there's no way back? I think there's still redemption here. I really do. If he goes off for a year, plays well somewhere else, maybe more stuff will come out. Maybe she'll talk to somebody, and maybe we can soften the blow for him to come back. I, but can I? You know, I'm an optimist when it comes to stuff like this because I have seen it happen before. Um, Probably not though, because at the end of the day, people are going to still say if she comes out and said this happens, they're still going to say she was manipulated by him. So you're probably right. But whatever he does, if I don't know if you caught early on, I said I hope he goes and wins 5 Ballon d'Ors and and he wins a couple of Champions Leagues and all that stuff wherever he goes. And I hope him and his wife and again, football is not important in this situation, other than the fact it's going to support him and his family. That he has a great life, that they stay together, that they showed everybody else that that could be his redemption. He doesn't have to come back to Manchester. He doesn't. He doesn't have to go back to Old Trafford and play in our uniform. His redemption is to have a good life with her, have more kids, be the matriarch or the patriarchy of the team, of his family. Oh, right now I'm in Alabama. But I was stationed in England in the late '90s, and been a fan of Manchester United since I was about 15 years old. Had to go over to when I first got my car. I had to drive over to like 30 miles to get the Sunday Times to see what was going on with Manchester United. Um, this is a strange thing. It actually a little story I have about Ronnie Marsh. Ronnie Marsh played for the Tampa Bay Rowdies because I grew up in Florida, and he played for City. Hopefully he will. Um, and I used to watch the Rowdies. I was like 12 years old, and they played the Cosmos, and Pele was in town, and we had like 60,000 in the stadium. It was like during July 4th, so we had like I mean, the Cosmos were pretty fucking good. They're one of the best teams in the world at that time. Oh, okay, cool. Um, I'd like to go there sometime. Um, so they I don't know. I think we won that day. I was thinking 4-3 or something. But the Cosmos were so good. I mean, they had a lot of old players from other. from Bundesliga and all that stuff, and they had Pele and a couple young American players. Um, but after the game, we were signing things like that, and I was a fan of him, and he said, "Where'd he came from? Where'd he come from? Where he played?" He said Manchester, and I just went, "Okay," and I didn't realize it was for City, right? So I went and I looked up Manchester, and the first thing that came up was Manchester United. I went to a what's that a library or something like that, and then I read about '58 and the plane crash. Dude, our midfield, our midfield needs to be fixed. But I wish, obviously he's the one who can actually finish. So that's where I realized what it was all about, and I fell in love with the story of Manchester United. So I started following them as much as I could. We didn't have anything here, and then eventually we started getting like the highlights show of the first division, and they would show it here on I was on PBS or something like that, which is like PBS, PBC, whatever. But it was our crowd funded type, not crowd, public access stuff. So I'd see stuff on that, and I'd see Manchester United, Liverpool, um, and I started following at that point. And then when I joined the military when I was 80 in 1983, I was over in Germany, and I watched them during on German TV, and that was when we were okay. We got some FA Cup stuff, and Liverpool was obviously really good. Aston Villa was good at that point. Of course, I was watching Frankfurt and Bayern Munich and all that stuff, and Ajax, and then came back to the States, and I had like a little satellite things, and they didn't have anything for the United States, but they had in Canada. You could watch them on that. So I had a Canada thing. So I was watching them every weekend, or I would try to do what I did. And obviously, when we got the internet, you could stream stuff, and now I'm obviously watching them. And then when we went when I went back in the late '90s, I had like 4 or 5 games. I went to that Everton game that Beckham put it in. Um, that year, we left in February or March. That's when my son was born, and he had some issues, so we had to come back because we had another year to stay during that whole treble season. And so me and my daughter went up there. We watched them play Everton, and that year they went last 3 games or last 33 games. We didn't lose any. We tried a few. We drew a few. Um, it was back in the States when we won everything. I almost wish I could have been there. I wish I would have been able to be there and see them have the whole thing. But that's when we left. So I've not been back. We've been trying to get back. We're supposed to get back. We had tickets and all that stuff. We were going to go there to see some other friends and stuff. It was 19. It was late 1919, 2019. Yeah. He is. As Mark says, he's a generational talent, and he is. He can do anything, and you can't defend that. Our prison, we can talk. If you want to talk about United, we can talk about United and the problems that we're having right now. Again, I did a video the other day, and I said we need to relax about this. We forget how bad we were the first 2 games last year, and the first games this year was so bad. It might have been the worst that we've been. Uh, Even though I think Wolves is pretty good on the ground, even though they've lost both their games, um, but there was improvement between Monday and Saturday, and we just hope that from Saturday back to Saturday we're going to get more improvement. But we have some issues in the midfield, and I don't think we don't the players don't really know where they need to be. And the problem I had with Luke Shaw years ago, and Mourinho kind of changed it, is he doesn't realize where he needs to be sometimes, and I'm not sure that he's the right person to play where he's going to play that 3-1-6 thing, and he's going to be inverted into the midfield because he doesn't get back fast enough. And then you have Martinez by himself dealing with somebody who's a lot faster than him. And I don't know. I'm not. It's his formation, his tactics. It'll hurt him or not. But the problem is, it's not his fault when we had at least 4 real good opportunities to score in the first half and we didn't do it. So his tactics got us in a position to be up probably 2 or 3 nothing at halftime. We didn't. The players didn't do that. So you can't really blame the coaches. Now you can get up in the second half. You clearly can, right? You can say that the substitutions was wrong. Putting Bruno out in the right again. A lot of people don't like that. I don't really like it either because he doesn't have the ability to go past anybody, and that's the issue on our wingers. I'm an old school Manchester United fan. We do not have guys like Ryan Giggs and Ronaldo, or even Beckham, flying down the wings anymore. We just don't. Anthony cannot go past anybody. Sometimes a nice trick and he's past him, but apparently really quickly he gets caught again. The only guy I think we got rid of was Alanga, and I don't know. But it's modern football, so that's how it is right now. But we do not have that type of player. I mean, we don't have like a Saka, or we don't have anything close to that. So, but if we have the ability to hold on to the ball and we have a real decent number nine, look how well we played once. Well, I can say we played well. How much the number nine looked when Martial was there. And yes, I know he has his issues. Oh, I agree. No, no doubt, no doubt. Yeah, 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 right. That's all we can do. But I want to be because everybody. I mean, after the game, everybody said that weak mentality. That I can't believe this. We have not improved. Again, this Mark again. This is Sam. This is Streffic Paddock. Any other YouTube flying pig? What they all say the same shit. It's all emotional. This is when I say that men have changed quite a bit. They're almost emotional women at this time. Yeah, you should be upset. But there was never a time in that game I didn't think we couldn't come back. Maybe when it got to about 80 minutes in, I said, well, when they scored the second goal, maybe we're not going to come back. But we had so many opportunities, especially in the first half. Anthony, if he puts it in there, it's 1-1. Who says we don't come back and win that game? And what do you say then at the end? The biggest issue is oof, Mbappe's. Oh my god, dude, he's so fast. He is so fucking fast. Still, I don't understand why they didn't they didn't square it to him in the World Cup final. Dude's wide open on the other side, and the guy tried to shoot it. France would have won that. He would have won that. He would have. It would have been the greatest ever individual performance probably in the history of the World Cup. It's unbelievable. I mean, when I talk about fast players, Giggs and Ronaldo and Mbappe. Mbappe is probably faster all. And people don't realize how fast Giggs was. I just unbelievably fast. The ball on his feet. And I just talk about if he played now, the fact you can't really hit as much as you did back then. I mean, look back, look at the highlights, how much that Ronaldo got beat the shit out of him in the 200s or 2000s with Manchester United, and look how bad Ronaldo or Giggs got knocked down, and you can't do any of that shit anymore. I mean, you can, but it's not the same. Yeah. Well, that's why I said that's why I named my son after him. But him as a person, yeah. As on the player, I mean, he's one of the greatest ever to play for Manchester United, and if that's the case, he's the greatest ever to play in the Premiership. Certainly in the Premiership, he is. And the fact he's still not in the Hall of Fame because what he did off the field, I don't know. I mean, he's been accused as well, right? He's also been excused, but I think that's been dropped as well. That brings us back to Anthony. Is this the next thing they're going to focus on? It's like we all know that was a penalty on Saturday. It was the same exact thing happened in the Women's World Cup. They didn't call it on the field, but they called it in the at VAR. Of course, the girl missed the penalty after that. But nobody cares about that now. It's not like the officials are now going to be set down. And even when Onana came out, the two Wolves players were beating each other up to get to the ball. I thought it was like handbags, one another. If I would have called it then on the field and said that's a penalty, I'd have said, you know what, I got to deal with that. But the fact he didn't call it on the field, I didn't expect them going up. I didn't really thought they're going to call it, and they didn't. And then everybody says that we run we run the thing. Maybe we did under Ferguson. Maybe there were times that we did, but I don't see it now because it's the same thing now. We didn't have social media back then. Now we do, and everybody thinks we run everything. We haven't won the league for 12 or 10 years. What do we run? So it's just funny, and just means that everybody still has our name on them. They always have their name in their mouth, and we're still relevant. But that goes away as well. So there's always a reason why things happen. Um, I don't. The first game we probably didn't deserve anything. The Wolves just could not score. The second game, I 22 shots, six on target, four really good chances. Garnacho should have scored. He put the ball down. He's about 6 yards out. He just brings it down and it just goes a little bit away from him. And then he tries to shoot it. By then, you have the ability to block it. If he takes it first time, it's probably in. He also was the guy that shot the ball. People get on him and said he had a bad game. He was still going, trying to do things. So he didn't have a bad game. But he had the shot that was handballed. That would have been led. That would have led to at least a penalty kick. And if puts it in, it's 1-0. And then they have to do something else. And we're usually pretty good when that happens. So we can usually get something on the break, get it 2-0, and we move on from that. So the first half we're fine, nothing wrong with it. Second half, we're not fit, and the reason why we're not fit, we're playing a formation that will just take it out of you, and we're just not there yet. Um, and we're not going to get there until we get players that he will fit into that. And we have to give Mount time. Never should give him the number 7, but we got to give him time. I think he was okay. Understatedly, I think he did certain things okay. I don't understand why the players are not passing the ball more. I don't know what that is, and that might be all about coaching and where we're looking at things. So I don't. It's only 2 games in, and we're better than we were last year when it comes to points. So it's a matter of go out and take the principles and finish the chances, and then move on from that. And then the real test is nothing to do with Spurs. It's going to be Arsenal, and we're going to see where we're at that point. We're not near City. Everybody knows this. But just got to see how we're going to do against Arsenal. We have to beat Forest. But the game against Arsenal is very important, and it's going to find out where we really are. And still, that's only 4 or 5 games in, until if we get other players in. And it's just interesting. I'll talk about, later in the week, I'll talk about who should be. Ooh, really? Maybe against Forest. He played well against Forest last year. Um, it's just hard. We'd have to change our entire. Um, if he wants to uh, use that type of formation and that tactics, um, it's hard to bring in Maguire because he slows the ball down. But again, I think Erickson and Maguire can actually come in and play in this game. I do. Um, I would. I mean, or Lindelof. I'd probably go with Lindelof probably because Lindelof can actually do that too. He can play high line. Um, I like Martinez, but he's not 100% back either. You can't really blame him for the goals. I mean, yeah, he doesn't even touch the ball and it still goes in. I don't know what that second goal was. I don't know that Onana his weight was on the wrong side. He couldn't come back because I would think he easily could have gone over there and got that ball. And Martinez barely just touches it, you know. So I don't. And the first one comes off of him, and and everybody blaming the other player for not reacting. Come on, it's like that was just a fluke goal, and they got what they got. So, and probably they deserved to get a goal there, but we could have had 3 or 4 before they got that first goal. And and that's a problem we had last year. We don't finish. People talk about how great a season that Marcus had. Okay, he probably could have had 70 more goals. I mean, we had enough opportunities that we didn't score, and Anthony could have had 20 last year. Yeah, so it's just the ability. And when the coach says focus, it means at the attack of shooting the ball into the goal, you have to be focused on that. You have to finish it, right? You see why we got somebody like Anthony. At this point, I'm not going to look at the transfer, what we paid on him. Really? He does pretty well. I know he's like 5'10". Um, I mean, he's kind of old school for me, so maybe I have some bias with him. He reminds me of older United teams where we had a type of because we need that, right? We need somebody to be forceful. So, but he was on the field during that Spurs thing. Again, I don't think that the defense played very poorly at all. I think that they had two fluky goals. I think that Shaw allowed the first goal. They allowed him to get a little further to the baseline, the end line, and didn't really cut it off, and then ended up hitting him, and came off of him, and just went into the goal. In the second one, I mean, Martinez is there, right? I don't know how. I don't know how we get. I don't know how. Was it Ben Davis that was 6 yards out? What the fuck? So, but we were playing open, so that was going to happen. Um, I had a problem with the substitutions who he brought in. He broke both the guys that actually have an attacking type of part to them. So I didn't really agree with that too much. But Harrison came in, played well, and I thought Martial played well. Um, we just know that Marcus is not a number 9, even though he's got the physical side of it. He doesn't have the ability, I think, to actually be behind, have his back to the goal. I just don't think he has that. He's, you would think that him and Martial should sit out there and just have these type of drills to get better at her, but he's not doing it. We'll see what happens on Saturday. I think we'll be fine. I think it's a 2 or 3 win thing. It won't be easy. There is no team in the Premiership that's easy for us, or Chelsea, and then Man City can pretty much beat anybody. But the rest of us have to always grift to win. And why we actually got the or third last year is because we had a good defense for the most part, and we had the belief. I just don't like it when we have, after 2 games, the fact we've only scored 1 goal, and they're going to blame the defense or say that we don't have any mentality, or we have not progressed, or there's going to be ups and downs in this, and either you have to believe him or you know. If when somebody continually says I back the manager, well, back him here. You can criticize the substitutions. Does anybody had any? I mean, yeah, it was the same team that came out against Wolves. So you could say maybe Sancho should be in there, but that team was good enough. And like I said, the first half we should have 3 or 4 goals, and I'm talking about you had 2 wide open headers. They had enough time that they could have brought the ball down and probably walked right past the goalkeeper, both of them, because we tore them up twice just like that. Then you got Garnacho, who had the ball 6 yards out and just waited a little bit too much, and then got deflected, got blocked, and then the penalty claim. That's 4 right there. It could have happened, and then it would have been they might have got a goal or 2 later on, but we probably got another one on the break. So, and of course I think Mark puts on that later on that calm down. But it's like the day before he's, oh my God, we have not progressed, not whatever. But that's just smart. It's all click, click, click baiting, and he doesn't need to do that anymore because he has all this. Why does he? He doesn't have to do it anymore. He doesn't have to put that in there. When I do it, when I put his name in there, I'm responding to what he does or what he has said. It's not for me to get more clout. I don't, like I said, I've been on this platform for 10 years. After my stroke, well, actually, it's been a little longer than that. It's been 13 years. After my stroke, I couldn't talk, and then once I started to get it back a little bit, I decided I want to watch myself while I'm doing my videos, and and then when I wasn't working and I had my red pill moments, I was like every other blue pill person out there, believing all certain things, and then I had my red pill moments, and I started talking about other things. So once you go down that rabbit hole, you go places you don't want to go. So, and then sports has always been my outlet. Um, Manchester United, college football, um, old school, Miami Dolphins, stuff like that. That's what I'm about. And I'm not the normal person. I'm not the normal American. I've been around the world. I've seen different cultures and stuff. I don't look at us as a better. I don't believe that. There's not. I think each culture is different. You know, seems like there are probably people in the Sudan are a lot more happy than most white people or people in the United States. It's just it's factually true. We're here. We're just continually just medicating ourselves all the time because we're so depressed with our first world problems. My God, my internet is buffering, or my I had to fit of flat tires. And good Lord, it's going to take me 2 minutes. Um, it's like, and then we have nothing really to do. We don't have to do anything. Everything's given to us, and that's when you start thinking about other things, and that's unfortunate. But I've been on here for almost 91 minutes now. I'm probably going to leave unless anybody has any questions for me. I see 6 people are here. Hopefully you've understand my point of view on Mason Greenwood, not the person, not the incidents, just the reaction and how we as a society we look at things without actually just taking a step back. Um, we we used to do this stuff before. We would just have men. We would just grab people and based on allegation. And the fact we have social media now, it's like even 100 times worse. And there's no way somebody can get the redemption back. And that's all I really wanted for him and his wife or his girlfriend. So you guys have a good day. I will do a video before the game, but I think what our formation will, well, I think he's going to do the same thing. He's stubborn. Yeah. Well, tell me who that should be. Do you think it should be Apperbat? Or do you think it's somebody else? I kind of like the dude from Bayern Munich, but apparently I think Inter is going to get him now. I thought, personally, I thought that Mount was going to be that. I thought, the things he played, this a whole other thing, though. I could be talking again. How he plays with Chelsea is totally different how we play. Chelsea always has the ball. It's rare. The only time they might have it is against Manchester City. But they always have the ball. And they have the ability to get open. And Mount was really good in that situation. I just don't think the way that we play that we have that. And you can't have a guy that's 71 or 31 years old, Casemiro, to be by himself. You can't have Wan-Bissaka and Luke Shaw being. Who's he play for? Um, Playing inverted so far up the field that they're almost in the midfield, almost up to the forwards, how we used to play. And then they have these big, huge things behind them, so they can go anywhere around Casemiro. As great as Casemiro is, oh yeah, yes, yeah, yeah. How about the guy that played for West Ham yesterday, uh, Lucenta? I thought he was incredible. To be honest, I've never seen him play. At least if I did, I don't watch West Ham that much, but I do. He reminded me of Eric Cantona. I know it sounds crazy, but his attitude, how he was, I thought he was incredible in that game. He's not going to be at West Ham the rest of his life. I can tell you that. Um, what was I saying? Yeah, you can't blame Casemiro because he's up there, and they have those open areas on both sides of him. But his greatness is that he got most past most of those, especially in the first half. So it's hard to blame him, but I definitely you can put somebody next to him. And this is the whole thing with, well, we need 2 players to play that position. Well, we had that. We have McTominay and Fred, and it's like, and now we have Casemiro there, and you have Bruno, who's great talent, but he runs around with his head cut off, and he throws passes, and he loses the ball. And but he had 2 or 3 good passes that should have been goals. So I feel, again, I'm okay. I'm like Aaron Rodgers years ago. I'm relaxed. We're going to be fine. The question is there other teams that are going to be? I mean, I think Chelsea should have won yesterday, even though they lost 3-1. I thought they played well, didn't score when they should have. Had a chance to get up 2-1, missed the penalty. Um, so I Liverpool. There are at Newcastle. There are so many teams, 6 or 7. How good is Aston Villa? I mean, it's going to be hard to get the top four unless we get our act together. I still believe in my max review. I think that we're gonna blow out somebody, and it could be Forest on Saturday. It could because you can't. Again, Spurs gave up a lot of opportunities to Brentford and gave up 2 goals. We should have had at least that much as well, and that was their first game at home with their new coach at home, 62,000 fans, and that first half we should have 4 goals. People can say we don't have any mentality, or we quit, or this is the same team that's been 2 years ago. All the shit that I hear, but we should have closed them out in the first half. We didn't do it, and we've got to get past that. We got to be a team that does that. We have to have the team that has a killing instinct that Manchester United's always had. At least, let's say not in the last 12 years though, but for a while, or well, 2013, we had that. We would you know we put the throat on you or put the foot on your throat, and it's just what it is. So I get more people on here now. Um, for those who just came on, I pretty much already talked what I had to say about Mason Greenwood. Just look at the statements both from the club and from Richard Arlen, and just that's where we're at with that. I agree exactly what the clubs did. So it's still Arsenal though, isn't it? Though I I don't know. It might be. It might be. I mean, they did everything they had to do, right? They got all the four. They got the 4 cups now. They didn't get the League Cup. We did. We got that. Um, I think Holland will now allow it. I think Holland wants to go down with the greatest players of all time. So, and they lost De Bruyne, but they'll find somebody that'll replace him, and he'll come back when he needs to come back. You know what? We can talk about City, okay? And the thing is, we all know about everything else, but we just still don't know about the 115. We don't know where's the revolution of that or the resolution of that. But the last 3 games that they won last year, they played absolute shit, but they won all the trophies. I'm not going to compare it to what we did in '99 because it's similar, you know, in a lot of ways. We didn't play that well in the FA Cup final. We still were dominant over Newcastle. Just probably deserved, clearly should have win that against Spurs. The last game of the year, Spurs played well. We couldn't get the goal. We finally did. We won it 1-2-1, and then in the European Champions final or the Champions League final, Bayern Munich was the best team until it went to stoppage time, and then we were the best team. They basically went back. They decided to just hold on to their 1 goal, and it cost them. And the greatest ever finish to Champions League history. I don't look at what Liverpool did the next year as, I mean, diving all over the field to get the penalty that brings the comeback back. They beat AC Milan. We didn't. We should have beat um, late AC Milan. They beat us in the semifinals, and then Liverpool beat them. So that year they were just the cup team, but they didn't play well at all. And Inter clearly could have won that game. They had several opportunities to at least get into the game, and they were on frunes at the end of the year. Um, but fair play. But the question is the resolution to the 115. Are we ever going to get it? It's just going to be they just go away. I don't understand it. So, but they clearly are. I mean, they played Arsenal twice, beat them twice. They are, and it is what it is at this point. I don't know how long it'll last. I mean, they won 4 in a row. Who knows? So, oh, those type of people calling me because I say things about Mason Greenwood. How can you defend any person? Anyway, it's been 100 minutes, guys. I gotta go. I gotta do something else. My brain's about to freeze or to melt. But if you want to talk about other things or just look at my channel, just subscribe to me if you want. So I've been on here for 13 years. I got like 450 subscribers, and I got like 60 in the last 2 weeks. So um, I've always had more videos than I've had subscribers. Now I've got more subscribers. So uh, I love to talk about stuff like this. I would love to do it every week to talk about where we are, the state of the game, and then we can talk about other things in the world. We can talk about them, give my viewpoint on it. Doesn't mean I'm right, man. It doesn't mean I'm right. The point is that we should have this conversation because the way we get caught in our own little echo chambers and we never have the ability to have these conversations. It could obviously be totally against what I have to say on any myriad of events, but just do it simply. And that's we all have our own experiences through our own the culture that we grew up in. I'm from the West. People on here might be from the East or from the Middle East, and they look at things differently than I do. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong if you're from different parts of Africa, the northern part, the central part, or the southern part. They probably look at things differently than the people in the United States feel. People in the Northeast United States are so progressively left is different from people in the South. So it's just how it is, all right? And we're all human. And that's the more important thing, is that we all have an opinion. I just, I just, there are times that I have to come on here and talk about certain things. These guys will never have a debate with me. Mark Goldbridge, anything like that, will never will, because they'll think I'm just trying to get where he's at. I don't need to. Dude could be my son, all right? I get a lot of respect that he has his own media empire. He is, in his own words, he looks at his channels now as an entertainment now. It's not a fan channel anymore. Even though he continually says it's the big fan this way, but he still says he's and it is. He's an internet entertainment person. Well played, well played. Um, but we should have the ability to have the conversation with him, whether he wants to be part of it or not, because we're not at the same level as him. We still have the ability to have that. And he's a lot younger than me, and he doesn't. Yes. Why was that detracted? Did you delete it? Gold Rich. No, they're talking about Mark Goldbridge, yes, or whatever his name is, DeSacy. His actual name is. When I come on here, I give you my first name. That's my real name. It's very easy to find out the rest of my name. I guess you can do that now with Mark now, but I am who I am, and you might actually see some things out there. Yeah, you might actually see some of the comments that I talk about in the past when I talk about things that are not on the mainstream. Let's just put it that way. It's just more just to talk about, right? Because there's certain things in the West we're not allowed to talk about. We talk about this to a point. Um, can't offend certain groups, but there's certain things that I've looked at that you can't really talk about. And when you especially in England, yeah, yeah, there are so many great young players, and there's so many of them, especially from Africa. I just like, and I'm like, how can you? It's like if we just get Brighton's um, scouting people and pay them whatever and have them come up and be our recruitment, I think we'll be fine. Or just actually buy Brighton because they lose everybody and they still play the same type of football. And they're probably going to be another team for the entire year. They'll probably be there. They might get a top four or top six as well. It's just unbelievable what they've done. And then was it Caicedo yesterday? He gave up a penalty at the end of that game. Now I don't know that Chelsea was going to actually get anything from that game, but he was off the pace too. Um, everybody talks about we should have had him 4 or 5 years ago or 3 years ago for $4 million. I'm like, well, every other team in the league could have bought him for $4 million. But that's where when we talk about the club and where the club has not gotten better is our recruitment, our scouting system, stuff like that. Um, why we don't get these young players early on, but they don't cost so much money. It's hard because it's Manchester United. We're going to end up paying more, but yes, they do. And the way that they play, I like how they play. Um, it's the game has changed so much, man. I mean, like I said, I can talk about this too. Uh, I don't think it. I don't think it. I don't think that it plays as well. Now again, obviously Manchester United was one of the best teams in the world for a long time, and the way that we played, dominating, wide open, that's kind of like not a lot, not that way anymore. This happened when we lost. We came after we won the treble, and then Real Madrid came in and beat us, and Ronaldo, the other Ronaldo, just destroyed us. Um, Ferguson said he had to change how he had to play, and we still did well after that, right? But we didn't get back to a Champions League till 2008. But because the game was changed at that point, this is 20 years ago, and now we're almost to a different part of it. And Stephen Allison talks about this, and I have some issues with him too. But when you come from a tactic point of view, that man is really good. When he talks about how you overload, this is what we do now: overload personnel one side or the other, instead of how the old days it was like 4-4-2, bounding down the wings, straw, crossing the ball, getting around the first defender, and just do what you have to do. It's more of a control type of thing now. It's kind of like football in the United States. And if I don't know if you guys watch NFL and stuff, you try to get a point where you have more players than anybody else. This is how it happens in soccer, football now in England. It's still the best game, the best visual game to watch. The Premiership is clearly the best league as far as watching the game. It doesn't necessarily mean it's the most technical of it all. Probably the most best athletic players. I say that people say athletic. You mean black people? Okay, you gotta get me. There's it's another thing. Years ago, when there was a guy that said that I'm not gonna go down there, but there's little differences between the races, and don't take it the wrong way. Okay, I'm talking about as a group of people. There's a reason why dominate black people dominate the sports we have in the United States, because the sports we look at have a certain things that are required. All right, doesn't mean that white people can't be good. It doesn't mean that Hispanic people can't mean a Jewish person can't do well. I'm just telling you, this is how it is. Um, it's but people get like, oh, you can't say that. Well, I just did. So I play, and when you look when you look at the how it is in the United States, how we look at youth youth football, soccer, whatever they change them or train them at such an early age. Where in the I guess in England they have the academies. We don't really have that here. We have like club things, but not the same. So, and way too much money is involved with it, and too much influence by the parents and all that stuff. But there's no, to me, it's not like it's like, oh my God, this one girl, just whatever her name was, she won all this stuff. She's a white girl, and she started doing well. It's like, I can't believe it. This white girl wins fast. I'm like, okay. Stop. It's like they're just very, very small, minute, in a group level differences between the races. Um, you can say that overall, I'm going to get myself in trouble here, but overall, Asians are a little bit smaller than Europeans or, let's say, white people. Um, Penis size. There's things that are just different. It's almost based on the environment that you're growing up. Whether you believe in evolution or not, there's all that's related to it. Um, in the West, we've actually lost our IQ because people say it's from all the races getting together, mixing all that shit. I don't think it's really that. I think that we're all stupid because we don't do anything that really tax our mind anymore. So it's one of those weird things. These are things I talk about on my channel as well, and it's not to defame any group of people at all, because we're all human. For crying out loud, the only difference is the level of melon that we have in our skin. That when people say things that people that look like me, or what I mean, it's the shit they say, cave monkeys. Or, I mean, it's just stupidity. We're past all this. Why are we going back? It's just so fucking stupid. When I watch a sport, I don't care. I just want to play it respectfully and play it correctly. And after the game, shake hands and move on. You can still hate the guys. I hate that we don't really have the rivalries anymore. I mean, I love Keane in the tunnel against Arsenal and just want to beat Vieira in his face. I mean, I mean, I like that. That's the man in me, the combative thing in me. So, but I gotta stop, man. It's almost been 2 hours, man. So, or is it? I don't know what that means. I guess it is. Yeah, an hour and 2 minutes, and I'm gonna have to upload this as well, and no one's gonna probably watch it. But for the up to 8 or 9 people who actually watched it, thank you. Um, just send me, you can look on my YouTube channel. You can send me a message. So if there's anything you want me to talk to you in the future about, we'll talk about it. But I gotta move on with my life here. I got things I got to do, and not really. I'm kind of retired. Yeah, yeah, exactly, my man. I, I don't want to go down there because it makes me really, because I just wanted him to be. You have this idea, right? Him getting the goal that wins the league or something, but apparently that's not going to happen. At least not yet. The point is, there's always a chance for him to come back. If we're just going to loan him out, if it's not going to have to sell type of thing, he has to come back, right? And then maybe another year, it might be okay, maybe. I got to stop though. You guys have a good day, and I love it that you guys stayed with me. I love to be have this conversation, but I have things I have to do. So you guys have a good day. We can talk about other things in the comments, or you can DM me. My on Twitter, I think I'm Seminoles for Life, but I'll put that in the description as well. We can talk about movies, whatever. As you see, I have like Army of the Darks and stuff. I mean, I'm a huge movie person as well. Um, but thank you for talking to me. I appreciate it, and I would love to have a community where we can have a conversation around the world and get our shit together and get our everything together because we're not that different dudes and girls. We're just not. You guys have a good day.